Okay, everyone, we are live, and I'm here today with Doug Kramer. How are you doing, Doug?
Good, my man. Thanks for having me on, Aaron.
My pleasure. So, Doug has a YouTube channel called Dazed But Not Confused. I don't know if mostly you talk about Scientology on your channel, or if that's what started it. What do you talk about mostly on your channel?
That's a great question, man. When I came, just to answer that, when I came out of Scientology, we all go back to the normie world, Aaron, and that's what we were trying to get away from in the cult. So because of the experience I went through in Scientology, it kind of deprogrammed me from a lot of things, the wider world. I could see some of the techniques that were being used against us with the mind control in the wider world. So I try to cover that. But because if you're a Mormon, a Jehovah's Witness, and many other high control groups, they would be able to relate to our experience coming out of Scientology. So eventually I'm going to try to get more coverage on other groups because I have a tie to Scientology, to exposing them like you, because they're in my DNA and that's the fight. But you can learn a lot, as you know, from the Scientology experience. So I'm just trying to broaden that. That's basically what the channel's about. But with the theme of Scientology, because it has one of the most comprehensive package of control aspects. So it can be used as a good model for other things.
Yeah, it is amazing how similar high control groups are to each other.
Yeah. You've noticed that too, right?
Well, I'll tell you, the first time it hit me like a like a giant fist was when I was reading Steve Hassan's book, Combating Cult Mind Control.
Hell yeah.
And I mean, I never would have guessed in a million years that someone's experience joining the Moonies
Me neither.
Sound exactly
I
like,
know.
and honestly, it was devastating. I was reading this book. Oh, I was listening to the audiobook, sobbing.
Really? So was I, bro.
Because I did not realize how much I had been holding on to the fact that even though I no longer believed in Scientology, even though I'd even, I see L. Ron Hubbard as pretty much a scammer and a con man, I was still holding on to the fact without realizing it well, at least it's a special kind of bullshit, right?
Exactly, dude.
It's super unique, right? Like no one's ever come up with anything like this before.
Yeah.
Like we got tricked in a really special way, you guys.
Yes.
And then I'm reading this book and I'm like, oh, this isn't even special bullshit.
Exactly. That's the same cognition I had, bro, reading that book.
And it was fucking devastating. It was honestly devastating.
Dude, I had that realization in a day, Aaron, where somebody dropped off that book on my doorstep. That's how I got out. And if I had to go through like a lot of ex-Scientologists where, it takes forever to figure out that Hubbard's bad, and then we just blame it on Miscavige for a while. And like you said, I knew we had a special tech that maybe it's a cult, but it's special. And then reading Steve Hassan's book, it'll dispel you of that. I had a huge breakdown on that too. But Aaron, I was lucky. I got that. I went from being a completely hardcore Scientologist. I just finished OT3, not that long. I was really into it. There was no reason to leave, but I got the right book at the right time where I didn't have to go through all the layers of figuring out years later that Hubbard was bad and the tech was not special. I got all that from Steve Hassan's book.
So wait, someone gave you Steve Hassan's book when you were still like hardcore in Scientology?
Yes, I was taking acting classes here in LA. And there was a guy from my acting class who knew, everybody knows that it's a cult, Aaron, except for us that are in it, right? So he was like half concerned, half trying to get back at me, is how I would describe it. It wasn't necessarily a humanitarian thing, but he left a big stack of books on my doorstep. And right at the top was Steve Hassan's Combating Cult Mind Control. And you know how it goes, Aaron. I was going to report that guy to Celebrity Center. I was going to go down there. No, I was going to go write a KR on him. You know how it is. Non-Scientologist or non-Scientologist, we report on anybody that's doing something like that, right? So rather than the hours were going by, it was kind of late. I was lazy. This one moment, bro, was going to determine my entire life. So I just, thank God I was lazy that night, because I said, what the hell? I'm going to write this guy up in the morning, and I'm just going to crack open this stupid book and see what this idiot Steve Hassan has to say about, oh, my friend thinks I'm in a cult. Bro, it only took me 20 minutes because he has that thing called the BITE model, which stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotion. And, reading that, those are the various areas that a cult controls. That was one of the things that caused me to snap with the Moonies, the Jehovah's Witnesses, Scientology. They all have those same basic playbook. Yeah, so, dude, I was out of there in 20 minutes, and You know how it is, man. To get out that quickly, a heart attack's not the right word. I knew I was in danger. How do I save my family? My whole life was going to change. And then I jumped on the internet and found out, all the stuff that I'm not supposed to read. Aaron, I was shaking for like 2 hours, as to whether or not, because I had just read Steve Hassan's book, and then either later that night or the next day, I just sat there for 2 hours going, should I type in OT4 or not? Because that was my next action, and I felt like that could prove if this is BS or not. But if you do that and I'm wrong, then I got to go, go through the whole ethics thing and report to the church, because you know how we tell anything that we do that we're not supposed to do. We're just trained that way. So after shaking, man, I went on to, I think it was Operation Clambait, and I read OT4, OT5, and I'm like, OT7, I'm like, they're all body thetans still. They promised me when I was done with OT3, no more body thetans. So as soon as I realized OT4 and the rest of them were body thetans, I was definitely out of there. And then it was just years and years of reading books like Steve to figure this crap out, man, because you know the mind games.
So when you finished OT3, you were genuinely hopeful there was not going to be more body thetans on the rest of the OT levels.
He tells us that, dude. I don't remember exactly why I'm thinking that, but I know it's in the policy, it's in the course, somewhere along the lines, he makes it very evident that there's no more body thetans.
Well, no, the reason I'm asking is because, when I describe in my videos, I definitely describe it in a way like every time you finish, you're hoping it's not the next level, more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I haven't had the opportunity to ask many people individually, like, did you suspect there was more BTs on the future levels, or were you really, really, really hoping it wasn't?
Genuinely convinced, because like I said, I can't point to the reference, but he said something where he's like, you've gotten rid of all of your BTs on OT3. He makes that very clear. So I'm telling you, anybody that goes on to OT4 is not happy that they have BTs that are now on drugs, dude, that they have to get rid of, because that's the OT drug rundown. Yeah.
So for any possible new listeners, when you hear that Scientologists believe in Xenu and these disembodied alien souls that are stuck to your body, most Scientologists have no idea that's what Scientologists
correct
find out about on OT3. These upper OT levels are so confidential. It's hard to actually imagine a secret could be that well kept.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I was in the C organization, I literally worked in the advanced organization whose sole job is to deliver OT levels. And I never heard the word body thetan until after I left Scientology. That's how well guarded this information is. I worked in the damn place that delivered those levels, and I never even heard the word BT.
AONLA? No shit. You were out here in AOLA. I wonder if we ran across each other.
Well, from 2002 to 2006, I was in the Sea Org in LA. So from 2002 to 2005, I was the tech sec at that show. And then from 2005 to 2006, I was the lower level cramming officer at AOLA.
I'm surprised we haven't run across each other, because I was at the AO in 2003 doing the OT levels. I wouldn't have gone over to anything other than the AO. Just for your listeners, they have a whole block that's on a street called L. Ron Hubbard Way, which is what Aaron's talking about, where he worked at. What do they have? Ash O'Day, and then they have the advanced organization, all these different levels on one street. But yeah, Aaron, we don't, somebody asked me the other day, like, it's because I have some videos on OT3 of L. Ron Hubbard rambling his own words, about that. And they go, how is it a secret? Like, why don't it's not a secret anymore since South Park put it out. But, as you know, it is a secret, because we will not go online and look at any of that. And I knew when South Park came out, it was BS. Aaron, I remember being like, after the acting class one night, half of the 70% were Scientologists in this acting class. It was a guy named Bobby Lyons, who's like an OT8. And you would go to Milton Casales or Bobby Lyons out here. Those were the two Scientology acting teachers that we as Scientologists would probably go to. And in this class, so there was 30% that were non-Scientologists. I don't want to say the word for what that is, because I hate using that word. But one time it came up after class when we're all sitting around at the restaurant. One of the WOGS asked if, because it's a horrible word. It means the N-word. So I don't want to.
Although Americans would never know that.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So anyway, she just press me on it. I saw, this stuff and whatever, and I read, do you believe in Xenu and this and that? And just like a professional liar, because they teach us to be professional liars to the public. So I had no problem just laughing it all off. Oh, don't be silly. I knew damn well what she was saying was accurate, but she completely believed what I was saying. She knew I wouldn't bullshit her. And by the way, I called her up years later when I got out and I just apologized. There's a lot of people I apologize to, man, for being a bullshit artist in Scientology. And that's one of the things that you have to say, because we're giving them pneumonia. We're subjecting them to possible death. We're told that if we tell our friends anything that's on these confidential levels, we're possibly going to kill them. I know that sounds crazy, but you know how it is, Aaron, when you believe that we're saving the planet. And this is this is the way to do it,
So, Doug, when South Park came out with their Scientology episode, had you already done OT3?
No, I did it in 2003-ish, I believe. I'd have to check my records. But yeah, 2003 is when I busted through all the preps and everything up to OT3. So I hadn't seen it yet. It hadn't been out.
So when you were telling that other person in your acting class that it was all BS, was that after you did OT3?
Yeah, I had done it, and it was probably
okay.
right. It was probably right. When did the South Park thing come out? Wasn't that 2005-ish?
I don't recall.
Okay. It may have been out. It may have been not. I recall that it was right in between. It was when Tom Cruise was going bonkers and selling.
Oh, that was
Scientology.
2005. That was 2005.
Okay, and that's probably right about when South Park came out.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking this question is I'm wondering, were you already aware? Had you already been exposed in pop culture to the OT3 story before you did OT3?
I want to say yes, it was out there. And because Tom Cruise was making the rounds, and I do think this coincides with the South Park, yeah, it was becoming into the public consciousness for kind of the first time where I had conversations like with that gal where she was confronting me about, hey, is this true?
So when you finally started OT3, were you like, oh no, they were right? Or like, how did that go for you?
No, I had already done OT3 when this gal was questioning me on it. So I didn't get too much from my friends or anybody before I got out of the OT levels. It was only after when people started to kind of question that. I had been through with OT3 for a couple years before, Tom Cruise came out, and I had this conversation. So it was before, man. And I didn't have to defend anything. So I had no preconceived ideas on OT3. Nobody had told me the story at all before then. I had no idea what it was going to be.
So when you started it, what was your reaction? Because a lot of people wonder, how could any Scientologist believe this? And the truth is, if you understand the basics of Scientology, OT3 is not that crazy. It's just not what you expect, but it's really not that crazy if given everything else that's in Scientology. How did you take it?
I completely believed it. I've heard other people's reactions. I know Paul Haggis said this must be an insanity test. I think Leah was looking at her mother going, what the hell did you bring me into, Mom? No, bro, I hate to admit it, but it's exactly what you said. We're already indoctrinated with endless hours of tapes of L. Ron Hubbard babbling about all this space opera crap. So it's not far out there at all. I wasn't like, oh, this sucks. I was a little weirded out, but I'm like, this is what L. Ron said. This is what I have to do. This is what it is. And then I also thought I was special because I knew this secret. You have to work really hard, as you know, bro, to get up there. It took forever and all sorts of sacrifices and this and that. So that too plays into, I'm going to believe whatever he said. He could have said, we were all implanted with dog shit, in the volcanoes or whatever, and I still would have believed it. It didn't matter what he would have said.
Yeah. So give like a 30-second explanation of what an OT3 session is like.
Okay. First of all, to your listeners, we are security checked by people like you, the Sea Org. So I had a Sea Org member come down to my apartment, and they had to make sure that the doors were locked and everything. Because as you know, you can't show this to anybody. And you pick up the materials in the day and you put them in a locked briefcase that you strap to you with a dog leash. And then even driving home, Aaron, I felt so freaking special, man. Like all the people that were around me when I was driving in my car I had this briefcase on, I was just like, if only you people knew, it's such a really weird headspace. I'm so happy to be out of it. So anyways, you come home with the materials. I would lock my door And then I would, undo the briefcase and everything. And then you take out the materials, and all you do is you have this, how you normally have the e-meter, right, Aaron? Well, both of those cans are connected together by like this plastic thing. So you hold them in one hand and you're writing down in the other, just like a typical auditing session. And then you find an area of pressure. And then you run, like, let's say it's completely
like physical pressure.
Yes. What he says is that the BTs, the body thetans, and to your listeners, there's a whole galactic story about how those get implanted on us. But all of us, supposedly, according to Scientology, are infested with these BTs. And this is the big secret. So the way we get rid of them is we're to locate a pressure point. And Aaron, it's all in my imagination because I didn't feel any pressure points or anything. But I remember getting drilled constantly because I went crazy on this level. And I had a lot of problems. So I was constantly being drilled on how to put tone 40 intention into that ashtray because I was having trouble locating the precise area of the BTs. So I would locate by my imagination these pressure points, the needle drops, and then you just run them through incident 1 and incident 2. And this is where we get into gibberish town where I don't want to, go over the top of the head of the audience. Basically, these are incidents. I have a video on them if you want to know what the incidents are, but they're basically when we were implanted a long time ago, these alien souls that we're trying to get rid of were exploded in volcanoes. They themselves were implanted with like a movie screen, for 36 days. And then, like I said, I'm not going to explain the whole galactic story. And then they're on us. So when we run them out, we have to run them through that incident that they're trapped in with the, implants that they have. And then they go away. And by the way, Aaron, like, it's all your imagination. It's being in a light trance and you just sort of believe everything. But I got to tell you, I felt like I was saving the planet because I just felt like I was freeing beings. It was like beautiful. And then me and my dad would be able to share our success stories, but we could never talk about the information on there, even if we're both on the level, as you know. But I thought it was just an amazing experience. I felt so OT, man, getting like, look at what I'm doing for all you people around me. If only you knew what I was doing during the day, just saving, the planet. It's crazy.
That
dude.
really pumps up the superiority complex of Scientologists for sure. I mean, that's where you get that maniacal Tom Cruise persona.
Exactly.
Of like, that as a Scientologist, you're the only one who can help.
And he has all these secrets like we're talking about that people don't see that give you, like you said, that fanatical elitist attitude. And it's powerful, dude. I'm so ashamed at how superior I thought I was just because of this garbage in my head that I was believing, dude.
How long would a typical OT3 session last?
Pretty quick. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I would do several a day and they're really quick and they messed with my head, bro. Because when you believe in that, you get kind of schizophrenia and all sorts of wonderful things happen.
So you're basically sitting there, you're telepathically exercising spirits several times a day. How many months did you spend on OT3?
Probably about 3 or 4 months. That was the longest one. OT1 and 2 are very quick. I think they used to be longer. But for me, they just pushed me through those in a couple of weeks. So yeah, about 3 or 4 months. And I had a nervous breakdown. I had a lot of things happen during that because OT2 also jacked me up badly. So by the time I was ready to believe in these alien beings, Aaron, they would talk to me at night. I swear to God, I would go down to the gym and I would see other people and I could almost hear their freaking body thetans talking to me. Just to give your listeners some idea of the induced schizophrenia that it causes. And my dad had to come rescue me because I had a breakdown outside of AOLA and he had to clear my words and get me back on, because everything's a misunderstood word, Aaron, right? It's not that I'm going crazy. It's like I wasn't understand. They pushed me through that and I lost my mind, dude.
So I have wondered why more people don't have some sort of a breakdown on these levels where you're essentially like, when you think about what we're describing, when you try to extricate yourself from the Scientology way of thinking about it, it just sounds like a recipe for inducing some sort of personality disorder or psychosis or, whatever. You could pick a number of words. And yet, on the one hand, I say I'm surprised you don't hear of more people having breakdowns. On the other hand, I think a lot more people have the breakdowns than we think. You just don't hear about it.
That's a great point. Another thing I've always wondered, bro, is like, I was so infuriated when I found out I was conned. Just everything. I mean, I was angry, bro. I wasn't going to go bomb the building. I wasn't going to do anything illegal. I wasn't going to go through a hammer through their door. I'm so surprised though, bro, with them holding on to our family, you know, and what they do, that someone hasn't blown up a building. I'm not advising
Well,
anybody to do that. I'm just saying the anger that I had, I was almost willing to go suicide myself to just blow up one of their buildings. That's just gives you a level of the anger and being deceived on that level. And then also, you know, my parents are trapped in there for the rest of their lives. My dad's at the top of the bridge, man. He has been for like 20 years. That's OT8. They're so in it that that the fact that this dead man, this guy, I mean, I wanted to bury, you know, find out where L. Ron Hubbard was buried, you know, unbury him and beat the shit out of him, because he took my family, man. And it's like, there's no way to offload the anger. I had to learn to heal it myself, but I'm so surprised they haven't had people attacking their buildings, dude. Like viciously.
well, I mean, you know, one of the members of one of the families who
Louis
was on,
Rice.
on the Aftermath show, you know, he did, but also he, you know, he was having his own struggles with mental illness. And so were you born into Scientology?
Yeah, basically, I got into it when I was 9 years old. My dad just simply went to work one day as my dad, and he got into it in a day, Aaron. He came back hypnotized, speaking in Scientology language, and he told my mom that he needs to borrow $10,000 from his brother to do this, because we didn't have a lot of money at the time. And he insisted on it, where it was going to cause a divorce in our family. My parents were arguing about it. Eventually, my mom got into it. They learned how to double team me and manipulate me to go down there. And then my sister also kind of got sucked into it too. That's how it happened. It was literally like, just real quick, Aaron, like to show how simple it is. Like he was just reading a newspaper, and in the bottom corner, it said Dianetics, learn how to communicate better, learn how to fix your family. You know, the various buttons that they press. And also it said Dianetics. It didn't say Scientology. And he went, because it has a bad reputation, so they often try to sell it as Dianetics. And when he went down there, there was nothing that said Scientology. It was a small mission in Ventura, California. And he got, I don't know exactly what happened, because I never found out, but he definitely would have started the communication course, because like I said, he already had the glazed look in his eye. He was speaking as if he had already done a course, and he was down there all day and all night. And I believe that the reason he needed the 10,000, Aaron, is probably to do life repair. You know, he paid for the communication course and a little package to get him started. You know how they try to sell you packages depending on how much you're reaching, you know?
Yeah, because 10,000 is kind of a lot for
especially on day one, dude. But Aaron, I'm telling you, we had the top mission sales staff. Like there was a guy named Jim Hamry who could sell water to an Eskimo. I mean, every time I would go in there for the registration cycle, the reg cycle, he could sell me anything. And Ventura was one of the top missions. They were run by the Steiners, Tom and Kathy Steiner. We always won the birthday game and everything. Yeah. So they were really good, bro, at I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because damn, man, you know, they were not unprofessional. So they grabbed my dad in day one.
Boy, I'll tell you, I mean, Scientology salespeople are some of the most effective salespeople, because, well, you take just high-level sales skills and you give them a product that they believe everyone needs, and there's no downside to hard selling them, because they believe
great is good.
Even if they convince you to over leverage yourself, they truly believe that product is still worth it. So it's like, it's a salesman's like,
we're clearing the planet too. You get someone with a star high purpose like that, where it's do or die. And then, like you said, you add the hard sales pack or whatever, you know, he sold that from Les Danes, right? They teach the Regs how to sell by a book from a guy named Les Danes, which is just like, handle all their objections. It doesn't matter if you bankrupt them. It doesn't matter if they have to mortgage their homes, because dude, when you have a purpose where you're saving the planet and you're also selling these abilities, like, hey, pay now and you'll get the abilities later and make the money, you know, hence, and then you get locked in that room and they find your ruin and your vulnerabilities. I think anybody would fall for that under the right circumstances, you know?
Totally. And by the way, since we're doing more of a casual chat today, if there are any super chats, we'll answer them without, you know, being too disruptive to the interview. I did an interview with Mike Rinder. We did an hour interview. I didn't answer any questions because I was more focused on wanting to get him to answer certain questions. So how old were you when you did your first like Scientology service?
Pretty much right away. So if my dad got into it 9, maybe 10 and a half, something like that. Excuse me. And it was the TRs. I remember I was a rebellious kid. I didn't do anything too bad, Aaron, but Scientology amplified that in my life. So I thought I was a terrible person, but looking back, I wasn't. I was just doing typical teenage rebellion stuff. And they wanted to use those TRs, the training routines, the communication course, to kind of calm me down. So the very first thing I did is they took me into the back room in the mission, and they just said, here's what you're doing. They didn't explain it too much. I didn't even know it was a communication course. My mom and Jim Hamry was there, and they just said, now, Doug, just sit here and do what it says here and try to be there comfortably, and go ahead and close your eyes. Bro, I did this for like a couple weeks, just OTTR0, which to your listeners, you sit across from another person and you close your eyes and you go into like meditation mode. All sorts of things happened to me. I went crazy. I couldn't sit there. It was impossible. I'm just like, get me the hell out of here, mom and dad. I don't want to do this. But what they would do with me is they would kind of manipulate me a bit where, do you want to be, because I would get in trouble and they say, do you want to be punished, or do you want to just take a $50 course at Scientology, which we feel will help you out? So that's how they kind of would get me to go down there. But I hated all of that. But even on OTTR0, after I just sat and I just wanted to get out of it, man, because it was just horrible. Eventually, I did kind of go into an altered state of consciousness. My mind chatter stopped. And I thought it was amazing, because I was like, wow, thank you, mother and father, for, pushing. And now I understand what you're talking about. I didn't know I could feel this way. Of course, we don't know.
So a switch flipped there for you, and you started to be a believer.
Yes. I was still resisting after that, because there was a whole bunch of problems I did have with it and all that. But I'm telling you, you know how it is, Aaron, like seed by seed, you get proof. If your business stats go up, if you go into an altered state of consciousness in the auditing session, or, Jason Begay talked about that. He said he was doing the same frickin' drill, and all of a sudden he popped out of his body. I don't really believe in that. I think you just get disassociated and it can give you a floating feeling. So all sorts of things can happen if you're just, staring or sitting there forever. So yeah, that was the thing, Aaron. It wasn't everything else and this boiling the frog in hot water slowly. I would have resisted everything if I didn't get those highs that I was getting, not only in that communication course, but especially in the auditing. I did a lot of auditing, and I went into a lot of incredible states of mind. But it's just hypnosis. John Atack breaks this down and stuff about how the auditing process works. Many people I'm going to actually do a whole video on this. But did you ever experience like wins, as they call it? Did you do a lot of auditing? Did you ever get anything out of it? Or the TRs or anything?
I mean, the TRs for me were always an incredible chore, and were just something I had to get through. I mean, having wins on TRs would be the equivalent of you're assigned to go dig a ditch, and at the end of it, you're like, well, did you learn anything while you were digging that ditch? Yeah, I got really good at swinging this, pickaxe efficiently. And you're like, okay, is that really a win? Like for me, the TRs were just something I had to do. And so, yes, you get good at them. And I'm better at doing those things now than I used to be.
Yeah,
I didn't have any spiritual, self-improvement wins from it. I mean, other than
what about auditing or sec checking? Did you ever have any kind of blowout win in an auditing session or anything? Or Aaron, as a Sea Org member, were you, because there's a difference between the public and the Sea Org, right? Like we're just the little spoiled brats that just get to go up to the bridge, and you are the people that have to deal with us spoiled brats, because you guys don't get to do a heck of a lot of auditing or anything. You're the ones that deliver it, and you have to work your ass off 24/7. Did you get a taste of any of the auditing, or when you got it, was it mostly just to put your ethics in or sec checks?
It was mostly the auditing I received was mostly punitive.
Yeah.
Or mostly being done so that someone else could satisfy a requirement on their auditor training course.
Right.
Because my brother and I got involved at such a young age. For me, auditing was something I always tried to avoid. I don't, I never, it's like, what child is like, oh yeah, I want to sit down with a stranger and tell you all the things I really don't want to talk about. There's a reason I don't want to talk about them. I always did everything in my power to not get auditing. That being said, there was probably 2 or 3 like major blowout wins that I had in auditing that put me in a frame of mind. These wins didn't make me more desirous of getting audited.
Really?
What these wins did was make give me a real big problem, a big conundrum. Like, I believed in the story of full OT, right? I believed that enough Scientology auditing would get you to the state of full operating Thetan, as L. Ron Hubbard said. I also knew that I had no interest in getting auditing, but I did have interest in attaining full OT. And so it created this problem for me.
Wow.
In order to get to where I want to go, I have to go through this thing I don't want to do. And I don't know how to resolve that for myself. But in the meantime, I'll just stick around and keep doing my job.
That makes a lot of sense. No, I didn't like the auditing either, man. You bring up some good points. I don't think any of us like the auditing. I had many times, Aaron, when I would go beyond the natural capacity of the mind. My mind would break. I'd believe in my imagination. I'd be 76 trillion years down the track when I was Emperor so-and-so. I did so much auditing that my imagination became real. So I never liked it. I don't like, at the beginning, they asked you questions. Has a withhold been missed? Do you have a present time problem? It's really grueling for all Scientologists. It's just, Aaron, I got kind of forced into it though, man, and I was in and around it so much that I would have many of these blowouts, enough to keep me wanting to just get it. I was addicted to it. It's like a drug, my first blowout when in auditing, I used to smoke a lot of pot, and I was like, this replaced it. I feel like I'm stoned. Like, I've come out of sessions sometimes feeling literally high, exactly like I just took a huge bong hit. So I was like, okay, I can replace the auditing with this other crutch that I have. And since,
but it's so expensive, it's such an expensive habit. It's more expensive than the other habit.
It's way more expensive. It does. Of course, it makes sense now, Aaron, when we can see it all, but I can't explain it. It's just step by step,
And so, like, how old were you when you did OT3?
It was in 2003. I was born in 73. So how old does that make me? 30. I would have been 30 years old.
Okay. So about 20 years of experience or so in Scientology. And I mean, you would have had a hell of a lot more auditing than I ever had.
Yeah, I had a ton, dude. I did all the side actions and everything too, by the way, bro. The LX list, because I was always getting in trouble and do this. Yeah, it was just too much.
Is that the expanded Dianetics list? What's the LX
No,
list?
the LX is what they put you on when you're a bad person. It's kind of like a no case gain type scenario. You're not really
LX.
Don't even try to figure it out. There's a million of these little
no, I should know.
They have LX. These are not totally known about. You could be forgiven for not knowing this. You only get put on the LX1, LX2, and LX3, I believe, if you're not progressing and auditing. You're teetering between being a suppressive / no case gain. That's to the audience.
You sure this isn't part of expanded Dianetics?
No, it might be a part of Dianetics. I don't remember if we ran Dianetic processing.
Well, expanded Dianetics is a totally different thing than New Era Dianetics or whatever. That's
okay.
No one cares about this but us.
I know, but but they really exist, and they're only for the bad people.
So then you mentioned it. You told me, I was going to say, where did you start going off? But it was because of the Steve Hassan book. That's incredible that even after all of that auditing, of that being addicted to it, that book is what did it for you.
It is amazing.
So are both of your folks still alive?
As far as I know, yes. I haven't had any contact. I've had emails here and there. It's good roads, good weather. So if anything has to be discussed, it's email and go through mom. I can't talk to dad. I haven't seen him, Aaron, for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I don't know when the last time I saw their face. And they're only an hour away. I live in Los Angeles and they're a quick drive away. Can't really see my sister. I haven't seen her forever because she's kind of locked into all that. So it's a long, long story, but my dad and my mom are not going to extract themselves during my lifetime. I know that because I don't know how to explain that, because I tried a lot to get them out, not the right way. I attacked them. And I also did have a meeting with them where I showed them the Steve Hassan material and a bunch of other stuff. Look, here's how Hubbard lied and all that. I didn't do the greatest presentation, and it also went way over their head. But they're not going to leave. I do think that you can actually get in so deep where you're fucked, man. You're not going to be coming out, For my dad in his 80s, Aaron, to realize what he had done to the family, and I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying, if I put myself in his shoes, I know the trauma and the making up the damage that I had to do for being a piece of shit when I was under this spell. And I didn't do hardly anything. My dad, if he and my mother, but particularly my dad, if they were to come to terms with all the sacrifices they made, all the other family members that they dismissed because they were trying to warn him, just if he'd have to go through all of that and then realize that OT8 and everything he did was complete bullshit. Could you imagine the decompression of like my dad in his 80s? It almost it did break my brain temporarily, but I was young and I was an actor and I could act it out in my acting class. I didn't have to kill everybody. So I was set up to be able to handle this, and I barely made it through. My dad, I don't want that to happen to him. It's okay that they're Scientologists, you know. I don't I needed them to fix their lives for the longest time for me to continue. But you know, they actually do have every right to practice it. What they don't have a right to do is the criminal and mafia and illegal activities, which is also part and parcel with the belief system. But I feel for them, man, because they're sort of stuck in there, and I don't think I'd want them to go through that pain. You know?
Interesting. Well, that's very charitable of you, as they would say in Scientology. Very pain determined.
Thank you very much. Very OT, right? That's freaking funny, dude. What that word applies. I'm not trying to be quote unquote pan determined. I did a lot of, Aaron, this is after 10 years or 12 years or whatever of processing. Believe me, I threatened their life, bro. Straight up. And they had to get a restraining order on me.
Geez.
I tried every tactic from not tactic. I mean, I would cry on the phone because you know how it is. Like, it's like, I was so desperate and I couldn't get on with my life. And plus I'm trying to I'm trying to figure this thing out. Steve Hassan's book popped open to my mind. That was just the beginning. I had to figure out Hubbard's past and blah, blah, blah. And I was trying to pass this information over to my parents too. But as you know, as soon as I wasn't going to be quiet, I needed a lot of time to process, and I wasn't planning on ever necessarily speaking out, but I wasn't going to compromise my own. Once I knew Hubbard was a liar, I wasn't going to bow to my parents, just maybe because I could have kept my family, you know, Aaron, if you just shut up a little bit. Okay, I don't want to do Scientology, but no, dude, I was so offended that I had been lied to my whole life. There was no way from that point forward, I was going to compromise on anything. So that included trying to talk to my parents when they don't want to talk, or I've tried to find all sorts of ways to challenge them, you know, on their belief system, but it didn't work. And also, like I said, a lot of soul searching later. My family's also a little bit, Aaron, they're sociopaths with or without Scientology, straight up. And I think that led us into Scientology. My family dynamic was very similar to being in a cult's like being in an abusive relationship with a narcissist. It's just on a grander scale. So I don't really have a family to go back to. I am going to try to reconnect with my sister once my parents pass and Scientology's out of the way, because she's not as indoctrinated. But they're not bad people, man. They gave me a good life, and they're just doing what they believe in. But even if they were to leave Scientology, they're still manipulative people, which is what got me into Scientology in the first place, because I knew it was bullshit. I thought Dianetics was a piece of crap when I read it as a teenager, but they would manipulate me to make sure that they would get me in there while pretending that they're not to. So I wouldn't want to go back to that anyways. I wish them, you know, the best life. And like I said, they are good people. They're just extremely brainwashed and extremely damaged.
Yeah.
And since I was and am, I know what that feels like, you know.
Do you think your sister's mostly staying in so that she doesn't have to lose your parents? Does she, you know?
Yeah, she's not really in, Aaron. Here's the thing. Since I was the black sheep of the family, meaning I was the one that was always getting into trouble, my sister was the golden child, the head cheerleader, no problems in her life. Meanwhile, I'm like the kid that's into heavy metal and just like creating all sorts of problems. So they focused on me almost exclusively because I was the one with the problems, and they know Scientology can help that. They didn't really push it on my sister because she was so busy at school doing the cheerleader stuff and gymnastics and all this stuff. So she only got some auditing here and there, and she actually tried to break away from the family, kind of even unbeknownst to her. It was sort of a subconscious escape from my family because of the Scientology, and since she was the golden child, they praised her, and thank God, because while they were putting more attention on me in Scientology, she got way more manipulated in a different way by being the stellar, person in the family. So she's not totally indoctrinated. She tried to get away from the family. She escaped to New Mexico by marrying a complete psychopath, unfortunately. And he was a Mormon, a hardcore Mormon. So he brought her to the Mormon church. So then my parents were fighting to get her back from New Mexico to break up the marriage, kind of like, they broke up Tom Cruise's marriage or whatever. Scientologists get in there and they wanted my sister back. So they did. My sister and that psychopath did break up. She did come back and they did squeeze her back into Scientology. And I was also watching her kids get indoctrinated, and it was driving me crazy. It was just horrible, dude, to watch her get sucked back in. I don't know where she's at. No, though, Eric.
You don't know where she's at?
Well, I don't know. I haven't talked to him for so many years that I don't know where she'd be at. Is she still in Scientology? Did she rebel a little bit? I have no data on my sister, but we'd be able to reconnect. I don't think it would be solid enough. I don't think I would be shocked to find out if she's like an OT or something. I don't think it was her thing. She like you said earlier, Aaron, she's just doing it to get the support from the family, to not create any waves. And she'll do as much as she needs to keep in line with the family requirements.
Right. To even think of someone going from Scientology to Mormonism,
it sounds crazy, right?
Speaks to some mental plasticity that I cannot wrap.
I can't either.
Around.
That's why I don't think she was totally into Scientology. Aaron, I remember her telling me that her wins, when she was floating on the ceiling in auditing sessions. So she's done a decent amount. Like I said, she's so active in her own life, gymnastics. Like I said, she had no time on her calendar, and she was successful. So my parents didn't feel like they never would sit her down and manipulate her, because she was doing well in life. She was already upstat. It was just the fact that they worked on me the most. So I don't think it went into her head. I think that plasticity comes from her not being a true believer. You know how it is. Like, you can have one member of the family. Maybe it was like this in your family, where one's more hardcore and one's just going along with it to not break up the family that's on board with Scientology. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like my younger brother, before I got declared, I would have described my younger brother as someone who most definitely was not a Scientologist. And yet when I got declared, he disconnected anyway, because his dad is a Scientologist. And
wow.
And I run into my younger brother here and there. He doesn't ignore me. We'll chit chat briefly when we run into each other.
Is he still in Scientology, Aaron?
I mean, by definition, he is. He married a non-Scientologist.
Really? And he's allowed to talk to you a little bit here and there. You guys sneak phone calls?
No, he's not allowed. No, I mean, I'll just literally run into him. He lives like a mile away from me.
Okay. And he'll talk to you or run away?
No, he'll talk to me. Yeah.
Good roads, good weather.
He's not really a Scientologist.
Yeah,
I
know what you mean.
Didn't want to get officially declared.
Right.
He didn't want his dad to disconnect from him.
That I understand that. People must be listening going, that sounds so crazy, but this is the way Scientology works. It's politics as to who you're going to stay with, and who. It's so evil, by the way, because we would have had a totally normal family. I mean, we did more or less. And then I describe Scientology like a third-party predator coming into someone's life, and then it dictates how you need to live your life. And everybody was just fine before this thing squeezed itself into our lives, and then all of a sudden it tells us how we need to do our family. And by the way, anything that can take the natural bond that a mother has for their kids away, because my mom is doing something that would not be possible without Scientology's techniques, because nobody would split it. How many times, Aaron, do people leave comments on your videos where I can't believe, that they hear the stuff we talk about and they go, I would never leave my kid. I mean, that's my flesh and blood. But when you're in that North Korea environment, it's like a Sophie's choice. It's like everything's a Sophie's choice. Everything's like intense. And the hardest thing I had trouble wrapping my mind around, and what I talked to my parents the most about when I could email them or just get any communication in, was how could you select Scientology over your own family? Like, can't you see they're breaking up families and we're supposed to be uniting the world, uniting families? You can't see this cognitive dissonance, you know?
Yeah,
Do you
it
still,
really
Aaron?
is.
Did you lose? I mean, I'm really sorry about your brother, bro. I'm really sorry about that. Do you have any other family members that are like in Scientology relative, or did everybody get out in your family or?
It's just my younger brother who's still in. My mom
Okay.
was the first one to get declared.
Hmm.
And then it was me, and then it was my wife. So it's really my wife who lost her entire family.
Right,
And
right, right.
it's even a more of a shining example of Scientology breaking up families for no reason.
Yeah.
My wife's only crime in Scientology is continuing to be married to me. My wife's not even someone who's considered to have done something wrong. She wasn't
Really?
connected with these big bad SPs. She wasn't secretly commenting on, Mike Rinder's
Hmm.
blog like I was. If you recall, my wife didn't even appear in my episode of Scientology in the
Hmm.
Aftermath because she still, even though she was already declared, didn't want to give her parents any ammunition to justify having had disconnected from her.
Wow, man. Now that
Yeah.
is a mind trip. She
Yeah.
obviously has family. She's second generation.
Her mom, her dad, her brother, her two sisters, and all of her nieces and nephews.
Oh my God,
And
dude.
the entire family lives within 5 to 15 minutes of us and
That's
has not spoken.
crazy.
They have not
That's
spoken to Heather or our 3 daughters since 2014. So that's
I'm
8 years now.
so sorry to hear that. And for your wife, dude, that's the end product of Scientology right there, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's terrible, man. Is she doing okay, by the way? Like, that's brutal. Is she?
Yeah, no,
uh,
it's been a long time. We've had, is she, it will always be a source of pain.
mhm.
It will, it'll always be a source of pain. Uh, but we're doing well in life, so that
Good,
helps.
good. And also, she has you to talk to. I'd imagine you guys have had many, many late night talks that only, ex-Scientologists can have with each other, right? To sort of heal the pain.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sometimes the easiest way to heal the pain is to get information from other sources
that makes
instead of
sense.
each other.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
so when I find a good book or a good documentary that sort of is like, hey, this will help you recontextualize everything we've been through, I
Exactly.
share all those things.
Good, good.
But so, and one of those things recently was, for example, Nexium. Have you studied up on what the whole Nexium
Yeah, they're
thing?
almost exactly like Scientology. They've stolen everything from the word, postulates and intentions. And I mean, I don't know exactly. I've been looking into that a lot. I don't know where the heck Keith Raniere got the Scientology info from. Apparently, has never been actually a Scientologist at the church, but he seems to know a lot about it. Where I don't know, do something sus about that. And also,
It
they got
seems
taken down,
really
Aaron. They got taken down. What? Because they're a smaller cult. I mean, why didn't Scientology beat them to the punch? The only
well.
thing they're
They don't
doing
have
different is the sex traffic or the sex cult and the branding, but everything else is pretty much on point with LRH, with what Keith Raniere was doing.
the same religious protection in the courts that
Oh,
Scientology
really?
does. Well,
Really?
they're
So
not an
they were
IRS
not.
recognized.
I
They're not.
There you go. That's it. I completely forgot about that, but you're right. They were not registered, obviously, as a religion, right?
Yeah, they didn't have IRS recognition as a
Yeah.
religion.
Okay. That's why they got shut down.
And also, the thing that made it easier to prosecute them is that they had this guy. I'm going to go totally blank on his name. Mark Vicente.
Mm-hmm.
They had Mark Vicente audio and video recording everything for like 6
I
years.
know. And you just started watching that show, right? I saw The Vow. I think I heard you mention that you're watching The Vow, right? You're like X
Yeah.
amount of episodes into it. That I watched that a couple years ago when it came out, and it was just like, it's amazing how much it's similar to Scientology. If Keith would have somehow been able to get that, just simply add the religion protection on it, I think they'd still be going.
Yeah. And you see, he even succeeded in getting the Dalai Lama to come and give him a
That's right.
full blown endorsement, which is incredible.
Yep.
Um, what was I gonna say? There's something I was gonna say. Oh, about Keith Raniere and how much Scientology he used. There's much more to know there, because
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that he took from Scientology is not the stuff that you would have ever learned about by just buying the basic books that you can get.
Exactly. Good.
This stuff
That's
he took comes from policy letters and technical bulletins. So I don't
yes.
know how he ends up. It's not like you can't get your hands on those
I know,
things.
but still, I don't. What is he going to just order it on Amazon? And then I don't know. And there's no evidence to say he was an actual member of the church. So I don't know. It's a little mind boggling.
And if he had ever, like if he'd maybe been at a mission or a
He hasn't.
field
There's
group,
no evidence of that.
well,
That would
that
make sense. That would make sense. That's the only thing that would make sense to me.
if that's where he was involved, it wouldn't show up in any magazine, so it wouldn't be on
Yeah, I
any
guess you're right.
databases.
I mean,
I
you don't even think that there would be one course completion before he created a scam and people knew who he was. It said Keith Raniere, communication course completion, because they do have write-ups in the celebrity magazine and the completions, and then the back of the flag magazines. Don't you think there'd be some paper trail if he even freaking, did a couple courses?
But that's the Celebrity Center and Flag. If you complete a course in Philadelphia, your name doesn't appear on a list.
Yeah, you're right. Do you think he was a member?
So I don't, other than the fact that I don't know how else he could have gotten that information.
Yeah.
I don't have any evidence that he was. Well, I'll tell you this. Mike Rinder, when he was in Vancouver, he met up with Sarah Edmondson and Mark Vicente, and they told him, oh yeah, Keith Raniere had studied Scientology. But I haven't heard any further details. Like I haven't heard where and when and what he would have studied. But they said, oh yeah, totally. I mean, honestly, he took like the most perfect manipulative aspects of Scientology and like distilled it. NXIVM is an almost more perfect manipulative distillation of Scientology.
Yeah, and it's less crazy. They don't have OT and Xenu levels and everything. It was just doing their EMs, what they called EMs, which is similar to not the same, but like because they don't use a device, I don't think. But it's like auditing. He took everything, and like you said, he distilled it into a better con than even Hubbard came up with.
Yeah. In fact, that's remarkable. I'm almost waiting for the other shoe to drop, but there may not be another shoe. It's almost remarkable that he didn't try to take some jump into spirituality or religion or him being some higher being. Like if that's part of it, I haven't gotten there yet. Does it go
I don't
there?
think it's a part of it. Not that I know. I mean, Mark Vicente and Sarah, they would know a lot more. But as far as I know, no, their kind of OT levels was the freaking branding, man. Was the compartmentalization of their little secret society where only a few little people when they would go up the levels, apparently the branding and the secret part of NXIVM, which these gals talk about, that was sort of their advanced levels. I don't know that they get into any of that, but maybe if we would have given him more time, Keith would have gone even more crazy like Hubbard. Cause Hubbard believed in these body things. He was trying to get rid of these freaking things up until he died. So maybe Keith would have just gone more and more insane like these cult leaders do. And then he would have started actually hearing voices, and then he probably would have made up his own OT levels eventually. Who knows? But I don't think that's actually a part of it.
Yeah. It's really interesting stuff. And,
it is.
I haven't done a ton of reading about other high control groups other than Steve Hassan's book. And now I'm, checking out The Vow. What else have you run into that kind of,
the world we live in, man. I mean, just what happened in the last 3 years, I know you guys didn't get it bad, Aaron, and in Florida, but I've been living, under communism here in Los Angeles, since the what happened a couple of years ago. I recognize it in, like I said, the Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses. If you grow up in one of those things, they'll be able to come out and give a very similar account. And then on a lesser level, just learning the brainwashing techniques from Hassan's book made me realize, to be able to protect my mind from television, buying into a particular political leader that uses the same kind of repetition and, techniques to kind of, get inside your head. It's pretty much, dude, when I came out of Scientology, I just looked at it as a condensed version of the wider world because it's so ubiquitous. It's so everywhere. I'm not going conspiracy territory, Aaron. I'm just talking about when I learned Steve Hassan's material, just starting there, it really allowed me to protect myself and open up the wider world to realize Hubbard didn't come up with these things. He was just able to package them and do his own little microcosm of the macrocosm. you know?
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you use these techniques if you were a politician or an advertiser to get inside someone's subconscious, you know? That's all. I guess, you know, you said you didn't do a lot of auditing. For me, that was where the
Well, I mean,
most of the
I had
magic.
a bunch of auditing, but
Mhm.
not bridge auditing.
Right. And thank God for that, Aaron, because it's just that means more crap you have to get out of your head. But for me, like the similarities in the auditing, that is the part that really captured me to Scientology, and also because it jacked up my subconscious so much programming went in when I was in Scientology. Because Aaron, you know, I'd come out of a session and I would be in this ecstatic or suggestible state, and then I would go in and listen to lectures. And that's why they always send us mail to keep repeating. You actually have to keep somebody in and around Scientology. Otherwise, if you're away from it for a few months, the programming will start to break. This is one thing I want to say, brother. Like before that book was dropped off, it was like almost the perfect time because I was already prepped. I finished OT3. I was like, you know what? I'm not getting many acting jobs. I'm already in OT. I did the Philadelphia doctorate course. I listened to all the lectures. I have so much tech. Let me just back off, go make some money in acting, and get the money for OT4. So I purposely stopped taking calls. I just, I wasn't not a Scientologist. I was just going to go work and apply the conditions and outflow. And, you know, so I got a major job, like almost right after kind of backing away. And then I got invited to their president's office. I think Dave Pettit was the head of the president's office here in CC. I could be wrong about that, but I just remember right when I got my first big part, Michael Roberts was calling me. You know, he's this celebrity / half Sea Org / staff member. I mean, this guy would work, you know, almost like a Sea Org member. And then Dave Pettit was calling me. Like all of a sudden they were, because I was on a TV show, they're like, they just acted weird, Aaron. So I was like, what? So just being away from it for a few months, looking back at it now, that was already taking me away from the mind control, for lack of a better term, because dude, I'm telling you, there's a reason why they keep us around there all the time and bombard us, because if you're away, the spell, I think, starts to actually fall away. Possibly.
Yeah.
That's what happened at least in my.
So, hey, you mentioned the one acting school that you went to, and it wasn't. How come you never went to the Milton Kitselis, the Beverly Hills Playhouse, or did you?
I did. I didn't study directly with Milton. He would run a Saturday class, which you had to kind of work yourself up to. I studied with a guy named Gary Imhoff, and I was there for a few years. And then I went to the special class, the one that hardly anybody knew about, but where all the really kind of cool, like, actors were at that were Scientologists, and that was Bobby Lyons. You know, Laura Prapam was in my class, the couple of the Masterson, not Danny and Chris, but their stepbrother and stepsister. I always get them mixed up as to step whatever. But Jordan and Alana, yeah. They were in there all the time. And then Jason Doring was my best friend for a while. He was on Veronica Mars. And Bobby himself had like 100 IMDb credits, man. He's been like on everything. Who else was in there? I don't know, dude. All the hip little B, C level actors that were not a part of Milton were there.
So here's why I'm asking about Milton. Mike Rinder this past week did an interview with, oh my God, I just had his name. Who's the guy that does the podcast with Brendan Schaub? He was involved in the controversy with Bobby Lee. Oh my God, I can't believe I just...
Well, maybe we go with all right.
They have Fighter and the Kid podcast. Brian Callen.
Okay.
Mike Rinder just did an interview with Brian Callen. And usually when Mike's doing an interview, the most interesting part of the interview is Mike's answers. But in this interview, Brian Callen wanted everyone to know how much experience he's had with Scientology. And that was news for me. And where Brian Callen got his experience, he said he spent 10 years at the Beverly Hills Playhouse with Milton Kitselis.
Really?
And he said the place was just littered with Scientology concepts and the philosophy and the terminology and the language and everything, even down to like the SPs and PTSs and all this kind of stuff. And so I was wondering, you know, if you were at Milton's, did you know Brian Callen there?
I didn't, but you know, in regards to what you just said, even if it didn't matter if you studied with Milton, which was a Saturday class, the advanced level, or the other teachers, there was Gary Imhoff and a few other ones that would teach. It was so Scientology that, well, even getting in, they're kind of doing PTS, SP Tech to suss the person that's coming in. But we had a book, Aaron, that was written by Milton, that was like this thick, and it's all about policies about how to get suppressives out of your life. Scientology goes hand in hand, and then they have an ethics officer at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. It's set up literally exactly like a Scientology org. And I would say 50% were Scientologists, 50% were non-Scientologists. And they found out early on that they were a part of a Scientology school. And many people would leave too, because it was too much. We would report on each other. It was run like a Scientology org or mission.
So weird.
It was, but
So
I loved
weird.
it. As a Scientologist, I felt, again, special. And they were,
So did you see the show on Netflix, The Kaminsky Method with Michael Douglas?
That was awesome, dude. That was awesome.
I thought that whole show had to be modeled after Milton Kitselis in the Beverly Hills Playhouse.
Wow. I never thought of that.
But I was never there, so I don't know. But
that's very interesting, man.
Okay, so that when you saw the show, it didn't strike you as that way?
I didn't get that, but when you just said that, yeah. I mean, I love the acting part and the Scientology. I figured that's just, they're taking that from Tom Cruise and the celebrity, mixed with Scientology or whatever. But I never thought of that about actually modeling it off of Milton. So do you think, well, I guess Michael Douglas's character, the acting teacher, he wouldn't be Milton because obviously he wasn't a Scientologist, but maybe they got the idea partially from that. What specifically?
No, I just mean modeled after it of and maybe it's because the only big acting school I even know of in Los Angeles is the Beverly Hills Playhouse. I mean, you hear about the Groundlings, but is Chicago or LA? Is the Groundlings or Chicago?
I believe there's one in LA as well.
There's just not that. There's just not that many high profile, well-known acting schools. And the fact that he Michael Douglas's character in the Kaminsky Method, it's almost like, in some ways, he's got running his own little cult, and maybe that's just the nature of an acting school. But then there's the whole Scientology storyline that gets introduced into the show, and I'm like, it's not that I thought Michael Douglas's character was literally, Milton Kitselis, but that this whole thing was inspired by sort of the crazy dynamic and atmosphere of the combined worlds of Hollywood acting and Scientology.
I think you're right, man. I think that could very well be how they came up with that concept.
The show is hilarious.
Dude, it's awesome, isn't it? We both have a couple of videos up, man, using clips from that because it's too good, man. Haley Joel Osment, what do you think on a scale of 1 to 10? How 10 being the best? How accurately do you think he played a Scientologist?
So good, a 10, like a 10 all day. So it was the producer or the creator of the show, Chuck Lorre, apparently has a lot of experience in Scientology. He was in Scientology for a while back in the day. Yeah.
Chuck Lorre was actually in it for a while.
Yeah. I mean, depending on how you define, like,
meaning took some courses,
actively involved in courses and auditing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, you learn something new every day. Do you think it's still, well, we know that it's not getting any new people, any new big celebrities, and they're all second gens that are in, like Elizabeth Moss and stuff. But but it always attracts new people that I keep hearing about. Do you think that they are getting in any new celebrities, or that they're putting their feelers out? Remember Meghan Markle? There was rumors that she was possibly getting sucked in via Tom Cruise. Do you think that they're gonna get or still can attract celebrities in the Hollywood thing, or do you think the whole Hollywood Scientology connection is dead or dying?
I think it's just it's just gradually dying.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, Scientology's press and PR just gets worse and worse and worse. The abuses just get more and more.
You'd
have to be crazy.
That's true.
Scientology.
But again, Aaron, you know how it is. Like, even I've seen people, the brief time that I was on staff, I saw somebody come in that knew it was crazy, already knew all about it and was questioning, knew all the Xenu and stuff. But once they got them into that room with that personality test and found their ruin, they ended up freaking joining staff, dude. So it's like, you can even know that it's crazy.
People keep asking in the chat what show we're talking about. The Kaminsky Method on Netflix. Starring Michael Douglas, Haley Joel Osment. I think the other actor actually passed away. The oldest one.
Oh, Alan that's something. Right. He did, man. He did.
And so I'm not even sure that the show's still in production, but there's 2 or 3 seasons. The Kaminsky Method. It's just absolutely fantastic.
It's definitely the best Scientology they've done on a show too. It's the most accurate. I wonder if they sent Haley Joel down to the Celebrity Center to get trading.
I know, right?
Possibly,
I
bro.
gotta know.
Actor
I
trading.
gotta know who their Scientology consultant was on that.
Me too, bro.
Can't just be Chuck Lorre from 30 years ago.
No, and he would have definitely had to have studied that and really method acted and learned about Scientology, because that wasn't a half-ass. That was the best, most detailed. I mean, Aaron, they even talked about Class 8 auditors at Flag. They were throwing in all sorts of words that wouldn't mean anything to most people.
You have some videos on your channel with clips from there?
I just have one video where it's called Scientology in Movies and TV. And I started out with the Kaminsky message. It's sort of the running theme for this 5-minute video where I clip in between Battlefield Earth, that thing from Repo Man, but always back to Haley Joel Osment, because it's so funny, you know, what he says.
Got it. Well, this has been fun. We should do this again.
I'd love to. And hey, I'd love to have you on my channel whenever you have some time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Probably squeeze it in sometime this week, maybe, or next.
Cool, man. I'd love to interview you.
So thanks for everyone. Check out Doug's YouTube channel, Dazed But Not Confused. And your channel's blowing up. You got over like 40,000 subscribers on that thing. That's fantastic. Well, how long have you been doing it?
2.5 years. But Aaron, if we were to compare stats, I am in treason compared to your affluence of 102,000 subscribers. So I'm working on it now.
I've been doing it though.
Yeah.
I went from, 4 months ago, I was at 40.
What is your secret? How did you do that? How did you?
So my secret was, I go, okay, so I'm a bit of a YouTube fanatic as far as watching YouTube. I watch YouTube all the time. It's all I watch.
Me too.
And I have my favorite YouTube channels, and how I consume the content is I just go to all my favorite channels every day, and I'm happy to watch anything that they've got. And any day that there's not something to watch, I'm a little sad. Really? So my goal was upload something every day. Like, be the change you want to see in the world. If it makes you sad not to see your favorite channels upload, then be the guy who always has something to watch. And I try to keep it short and interesting and fun and topical. And I was like, just do it every day. And so anyway, it took 16 weeks of uploading every day to go from 40,000 to 100,000.
Hey man, you deserve it, because you worked your ass off. And I don't know if people realize, I don't even know how the hell you do it, but I'm still learning YouTube. It takes forever to edit. There's so many considerations that go into just putting up the videos. What's a day in the life? I mean, are you doing this 24/7, dude? Like when you wake up and going at it? Because, what about the editing and all that stuff? I mean, that doesn't.
Well, it's one of the reasons I've started doing shorter videos is editing is a beast. So it could take me to get, this morning I put up the Lisa Marie Presley video. So it probably took me, it's a short video. It probably took me 90 minutes to 2 hours to sit down, record, upload, edit, render, upload, and live premiere what is like an 11-minute video.
That's super impressive, actually.
And it's also one of the reasons I've been getting so excited about doing live streams is because the idea of being able to sit down and do an hour interview and have it be done in an hour with no editing is like, oh my God. But then YouTube demonetizes half of my stuff for literally no reason. So
oh, believe me, I got demonetized a long time ago, so I don't give a crap about that. Besides, it also removes Aaron having to get around that little yellow tab. I'm just like, whatever, dude. I don't give a crap. But hey, man, congratulations, because as a fellow, getting into this YouTube thing, I know how much time that must take. I can't believe you can get that done in 2 hours. I mean, Aaron, I do these little episodes where I'm trying to, no Scientologist is gonna watch my channel, but when they get out, I have this series where hopefully it'll just deprogram them step by step, just by telling my story and breaking down the tech. I've spent, dude, 200 hours on a video, editing, shooting, writing. I mean, I'm talking a long time to put these little series together. And nobody, they're just like, come on, man, hurry up, do more. It's like, dude, these things take time. But I'm going to take some pointers from you. I'm going to start going live and try to possibly do some shorter videos too, and crank them out like pancakes like you can, man.
Yeah. Because also remember, like, most of your viewers are going to be people who are watching you for the first time. They're not like, oh boy, I love when Doug uploads 40-minute videos. I'm ready to, get my wine and enjoy this. Like even on my videos, like half of anyone who watches my videos on any given day are watching my video for the first time.
Really?
And it's one of the reasons I keep my AA run thing in the beginning. One, it cracks me up.
It's very funny.
And some people will go, God, it's getting really old. I'm like, yeah, it's getting old to you, not to the tens of thousands of people who are seeing it for the first time today.
Good point. Yeah.
And it's really funny. It cracks me up.
It
every
is
single time I
funny,
put that in
dude. And plus, you got your moniker and your jingle in people's heads, man. It's marketing 101. Elron would be proud, brother. He would be proud.
All right, everyone, check out Doug's channel, Dazed But Not Confused, and let's do this again soon, and then we'll do an interview on your channel this week.
Awesome. I very much look forward to talking to you. Thanks, Aaron. Have a good day, man.
Thanks, everyone.